Jesus had sailed across the lake again, and as he was getting out of the boat, the crowds came to him. They started pushing against him on all sides, and he found it difficult to work his way through, but he talked to them and he helped them as best he could. Well, as he was going through the crowd parted a little because somebody important was coming through. It was the leader of the local synagogue, a man named Jairus, and he came and he fell at Jesus' feet. He knelt down and said, "Please, Jesus, please, I need you to help me. I have a daughter at home. She's really, really ill. We're not sure there's anything anybody can do for her, but we thought Jesus might be able to help. So please, will you come to my house and see if you can help my daughter?" Well, Jesus, helping the man to his feet, said, "Yes, of course I'll come. Show me the way." And he started to work his way through the crowd, following Jairus towards his house. But the crowd was still pushing in on him from all sides as he walked along. He found it quite difficult. Well, in the crowd there was a woman who was really not very well at all. She was quite sick. She'd been bleeding for a long time and she couldn't stop the bleeding. Well, she tried. She'd been to doctors and nurses and street quacks who decided that she should try this potion, she'd try that potion, especially if they gave her a lot of money. They tried oils and ointments. She tried all sorts of things, and she'd spent all her money on people trying to cure her, but nothing ever worked. She was still bleeding, and she was slowly getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And she thought, maybe I could just get myself through the crowd. For 12 years I'd been ill, and if I can just touch Jesus' cloak even, then that might make me well, just being so close to him. And she did it. She managed to get herself through the crowd. She worked her way through, and she just reached out and she touched Jesus' cloak. Well, Jesus just stopped and he said, Someone has just touched me." Well, his friends said to him, "What do you mean someone's just touched you? It's so silly. There's crowds all around you. Keep bumping you one way and bumping you another. Of course somebody's touched you. Everybody's touching you. That's the nature of crowds. You're pushing your way through." He said, "No. Someone specifically touched me, deliberately touched me. I felt power go out of me." And at that point, the woman owned up. She said, it was me, sir." And she was on her knees in front of Jesus. She explained her story. And then she said, "But as soon as I touched your cloak, I felt well again. And the bleeding stopped." And Jesus, looking at the woman, lifting her to her feet, said, "You are well. Your faith has made you well." Well, as he was speaking to the woman, a voice came through the crowd. Jesus! Jesus! It was Jairus, hoping that he could pull Jesus towards his house. But as he was trying to get Jesus to follow him once again, one of Jairus' servants came to him and said, "Don't bother Jesus anymore." "Why?" said Jairus. "You don't need to bother Jesus anymore because, well, your little girl, she's died." Well, before Jairus could say anything, Jesus had overheard what was being said and said, "Wait, no, still, let me come to your house. Lead the way." So Jairus set off. They left the crowds behind. Jesus only allowed Peter, James and John to follow. And they got to Jairus' house. And when they got there was such a noise. There was wailing and crying and moaning, people being really upset, people sobbing, some people screaming, even such a noise. And Jesus said, "Why all this noise? The girl, she's not dead, she's just sleeping." And then they got angry and they laughed at him, saying, "How dare you come here, saying she's only asleep, but what do you know about it?" And Jesus said, "Let's just clear the house, get rid of all the noise." And he got everybody put outside, so there was just himself, Peter, James, John, and the little girl's mother and father with him. And they went to the room where the little girl was. And there she was, lying, still as stone on her bed. Jesus went up to the bed, sat down beside her and took the little girl's hand. He looked her in the face and said, "Little girl, I want you to get up." Jairus and his wife watched. Peter, James and John, they watched. And they could see that as Jesus held the little girl's hand, her fingers just started to twitch and move. And then she held Jesus' hand. And then she started to move her body, and she managed to sit herself up. Everyone was amazed. Jairus and his wife, their mouths dropped open. And Peter, James and John, the same. The girl sat up. Jesus looked to her parents and said, "Shh. Don't tell anyone about this. But I suggest you get her something to eat." And he left them in peace.